All right, so get ready because today we're going deep on something that you probably think you know everything about already, plaque and tartar. But believe me, we're going way further than just brush twice a day. We're going to use this article, Plaque and Tartar, Prevention for a Healthy Smile, to get into the real science behind what's going on in our mouths.
Exactly. We're going to give you what you need to know to really take charge of your oral health, not just go over the same old advice that you've heard a million times.
Okay, so let's start with like the bad guy here, plaque. I used to think of it as just that stuff that builds up on your teeth, but this article, it describes it as like a living, breathing biofilm. It's kind of creepy, isn't it?
It really is. Plaque is this whole complicated mix of bacteria and little bits of food and saliva, and it's not just sitting there. These bacteria are constantly growing and multiplying and making acids that attack your teeth.
And we all know that that's what causes cavities, but the article says something that I thought was really interesting. There's a link between plaque and heart disease. I mean, how can something in my mouth affect my heart?
Well, the really fascinating thing here is the role of inflammation. So when you get plaque building up, it irritates your gums. And that causes inflammation. And if that inflammation goes on for a long time, it can actually damage your blood vessels and increase your risk of having heart problems.
So it's not just about, having a nice smile. It's actually about protecting your whole body.
Absolutely. Oral health is a huge part of our overall well-being.
Okay, so plaque is bad news, but then it gets even worse. This article talks about plaque hardening into tartar, which just sounds awful.
Yeah, tartar, you can also call it calculus. It's basically just plaque that's become like a fossil, and it sticks to your teeth and makes this rough surface that just attracts more plaque. You can't get rid of it by just brushing. You have to have a dentist clean it off.
So it's like a plaque is like a little thief, and then tartar is like the big boss behind it all. And this tartar can cause some real damage, right?
You got it. Tartar is what makes your gums recede, and then that exposes the roots of your teeth, and that makes them really sensitive, and it makes them decay more easily. And it can also cause periodontitis.
Wait, periodontitis? That sounds serious.
It is. Periodontitis is a really bad type of gum disease. It's where the tissues that hold your teeth in place, they get infected and they get inflamed, and you can actually lose your teeth because of it.
Wow. Okay, so I think we've established that plaque and tartar are a pretty tough team that we need to be ready to fight. But the question is, how do we do it?
Well, this article, it lists some really good strategies, but we're going to go beyond the basics here and give you some real pro tips.
Perfect, because I think we all know that we're supposed to brush and floss, but I'm ready for the advanced level here.
All right, well, first let's talk about brushing. Most people don't brush for long enough, and they don't use the right technique. So you want to brush for a full 2 minutes. And use gentle circular motions. Don't scrub back and forth. And don't forget about your tongue. That's where a lot of bacteria hang out.
Okay, 2 minutes. Got it. But what about flossing? I'll admit, I'm not always the best about flossing every day.
I get it, but flossing, it's super important for getting the plaque out from between your teeth where your toothbrush can't reach. And don't just move the floss up and down. You really want to curve it around each tooth and gently move it up and down below the gum line.
So there's actually a technique to it. What about all those, those fancy toothbrushes and all the other gadgets? Are they worth it?
Well, some of them are. The article mentions electric toothbrushes, and research shows that they really do a better job at removing plaque than just brushing by hand, especially the ones that have the oscillating heads. And they can also really help people who don't have as much dexterity in their hands.
Interesting. I've been thinking about getting one of those. What about mouthwash? Do you really have to use it?
Mouthwash can be a good thing to add to your routine, I would say. It can get into spots that brushing and flossing miss, and it kills the bacteria that cause plaque to form. Look for a mouthwash that has fluoride in it. It'll help strengthen your enamel and prevent cavities.
Okay, so we've got brushing, we've got flossing, and we've got mouthwash. We're putting together a pretty good plan here. But what about diet? Does that have anything to do with forming plaque and tartar?
It's a big factor. Sugary foods and starchy foods, it's like they're feeding the bacteria in your mouth. The bacteria feed on those sugars and they make the acids that attack your teeth.
So yeah, candy and soda, those are obvious. But what about foods that seem healthy, like bread and fruit?
Even those can lead to more plaque, especially if they get stuck to your teeth. It's really all about moderation and making sure you rinse your mouth with water after you eat anything.
Okay, good to know. So it sounds like we have to be really careful about what we eat and how we clean our teeth. But I'm curious, is there anything else you can do to prevent plaque and tartar in the first place?
There are a couple of other things that can help. Stay hydrated is really important because water washes away food particles and it neutralizes acids in your mouth.
So water is basically like giving your teeth a rinse cycle.
You could say that. And chewing sugar-free gum after you eat can help too, because it makes more saliva. And saliva neutralizes acids and washes away food.
Wow, I had no idea the sugar-free gum was so powerful.
And of course, we can't forget about regular trips to the dentist.
Yeah, that's a given. But to be honest, I don't always love going to the dentist.
I understand. But remember, your dentist is on your side in the fight against plaque and tartar. They can get rid of any tartar that's built up, and they can see if there are any problems early on. And they can give you advice that's specific to you about how to keep your smile healthy.
Okay, you've convinced me regular checkups are important. So we've covered a lot here. We've talked about the science behind plaque and how it forms. We talked about how important it is to floss the right way. And we even learned that sugar-free gum is like a superpower. I'm feeling like I'm a lot more informed and ready to take charge of my oral health.
That's great to hear. But we're not done yet. There's still so much more to learn about plaque and tartar and how they affect our whole bodies.
Ooh, I'm interested to hear more. Let's keep going. So before we were talking about how what you eat has such a big impact on your oral health, especially when it comes to plaque and tartar, I'm thinking sugary drinks have to be like the worst, right?
Yeah, you got it. Sodas and juices and even sports drinks, they're just full of sugar. And that feeds the bacteria in your mouth that make acid.
Okay, but what about things like, coffee and tea? I know they can stain your teeth, but do they really contribute to plaque and tartar?
That's a really good question. Well, they don't have as much sugar as soda, coffee, and tea are acidic, and that acid can actually wear away your tooth enamel, and that makes it easier for plaque to build up.
So it's not just about the sugar, it's about how acidic something is too.
Exactly. And even drinks that seem healthy, like fruit juice, can be really acidic. It's surprising. It's all about being aware of what you're drinking and making sure you rinse your mouth out with water afterwards.
So we've been talking about drinks. What about food? Are there any foods that are especially good or bad for your oral health?
Oh, absolutely. Crunchy fruits and vegetables like apples and carrots and celery, they're kind of like nature's toothbrush, you know? They help to scrub away plaque and they make you produce more saliva.
So like snacking on carrots instead of potato chips is a win-win.
Exactly. And dairy products like cheese and yogurt are good too. They've got lots of calcium and phosphate, which help to make your tooth enamel stronger.
All right, so we've got our list of good guys, crunchy fruits and veggies, dairy products, and of course, water. What about the bad guys? Aside from, the obvious sugary stuff, are there any kind of sneaky foods that we should watch out for?
Well, anything that's really sticky and chewy, like candy and dried fruit, is bad because it sticks to your teeth and gives those plaque-making bacteria something to eat.
In the sense they get stuck in all those little spaces between your teeth?
Exactly. And refined carbohydrates, like white bread and pasta, they turn into sugar really quickly, and that feeds the bacteria.
So even though they're not as sweet as, candy or something, they can still cause problems.
That's right. It's all about understanding how different foods affect your mouth.
This is making me think about my own diet. I think I have some room for improvement there.
We all do. It's just about making small changes that you can actually keep up over time.
Speaking of making changes you can keep up, the article mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. It talks about a connection between oral health and stress. I mean, what does stress have to do with plaque and tartar?
It is pretty interesting, right? Well, when you're stressed, your body releases these hormones that can actually suppress your immune system, and that makes you more likely to get infections, including gum disease.
So stress can actually weaken our defenses against plaque and tartar.
Exactly. And when you're stressed, you might do things like grind your teeth, and that wears down your enamel and makes your teeth more likely to decay.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. So managing stress isn't just good for, your mental health. It's good for your mouth, too.
You got it. Taking care of your whole self, both your mind and body, is super important for keeping your mouth healthy.
This is really making me see the bigger picture here. It's not just about brushing and flossing. It's about making healthy choices, in every part of your life.
Absolutely. Oral health is a reflection of your overall health and well-being.
This deep dive is really living up to its name.
Yeah.
We're going way deeper than I expected, and I'm learning about all these different things that are connected to oral health.
And we're not even done yet. There's still more to learn. For instance, did you know that the bacteria in your mouth can actually spread from person to person?
Wait, really? Like through kissing?
Yeah, exactly. And also by sharing things like utensils and toothbrushes, even drinking glasses. It's why it's so important to have good hygiene, especially when you're around other people.
That's a little bit, well, I don't know, it's kind of creepy, but it's also really interesting. It's like our mouths are these little worlds that are constantly interacting with everything around us.
They really are. And the more we learn about them, the better we can keep them healthy and balanced.
Okay, so we've talked about diet, we've talked about stress, and now we've even talked about how bacteria can spread. What else is there to know about keeping plaque and tartar away? What about all those, fancy ingredients we see in toothpaste and mouthwash? Do those really do anything?
That's a great question. There are a ton of products out there that make all sorts of claims, so it's really important to know what's real and what's just hype.
Okay, let's break it down then. What ingredients should we be looking for?
When it comes to preventing cavities, fluoride is the best. It helps to strengthen your tooth enamel and make it more resistant to acid.
So fluoride is a must-have. What about all those whitening toothpastes? Do they really work?
Whitening toothpaste, they can help to get rid of surface stains, but they don't actually change the color of your teeth. If you really want to whiten your teeth, you'll need to talk to your dentist about professional whitening.
So whitening toothpaste is more about how your teeth look than about keeping them healthy.
Exactly. And as far as mouthwash goes, there are a few ingredients to watch out for. Antiseptic agents like chlorhexidine can help to control the bacteria and reduce plaque buildup.
So we've got fluoride to prevent cavities and antiseptics to control plaque. What else?
Well, some mouthwashes also have things in them that help to neutralize acids, freshen your breath, and even make your teeth less sensitive. It's all about finding the right mouthwash for what you need.
This is really helpful. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand all that stuff about oral health products.
That's what we want. We want you to feel confident about the choices you're making.
So we've talked about brushing and flossing and using mouthwash. Is there anything else we can do to make our oral hygiene routine even better?
Well, there are a few other things that can help. For example, using a tongue scraper can get rid of bacteria on your tongue and make your breath fresher.
A tongue scraper. I've never used one of those before.
They're really easy to use, and they can make a big difference in getting rid of bad breath. And if you have a problem with dry mouth, you could try a saliva substitute. That will help to keep your mouth moist and neutralize the acids.
Interesting. So we're talking about adding a few more tools to our toolkit, so to speak.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do everything perfectly. Just find a routine that works for you and stick with it.
That's good to know. It's not about being perfect, it's about making an effort.
Precisely. And all that effort will add up over time, and you'll have a healthier, brighter smile.
This has been so helpful. I feel like I've learned so much about plaque and tartar. We've talked about how they form, how they affect our whole bodies, and most importantly, how to prevent them.
And we're still going. There are a few more surprising facts and helpful tips to share. Let's jump back in.
So we've been talking a lot about, ways to fight plaque and tartar, but this article, it brings up something I hadn't really thought much about. The idea that our mouths, they actually have like their own little microbiome.
That's right. Your mouth is home to this whole bunch of different microorganisms, some good, some bad. And it's kind of like, the gut microbiome that we hear so much about, the oral microbiome. It plays a really big role in our overall health.
So it's not just about getting rid of all the bacteria, it's more about keeping things in balance.
Exactly. The idea is to help the good bacteria grow while keeping the bad bacteria under control.
That makes sense. So how do we make sure that those good bacteria have a good place to live?
A lot of the things we've already talked about are important, like brushing, flossing, eating healthy foods. But there are also some specific things you can do to help out your oral microbiome.
Okay, like what? Tell me the secrets.
Well, one interesting thing that the article talks about is using probiotics. You know how people take probiotics to help their gut health? Well, now there are probiotics that are made for your mouth.
Oh, wow. I had no idea there was such a thing as oral probiotics. So it's like giving your mouth a boost of good bacteria to fight the bad guys.
Exactly. And there's more and more research showing that oral probiotics can help to reduce plaque buildup, make your gums healthier, and even freshen your breath.
That's pretty cool. It seems like we're always learning new things about what goes on inside our mouths.
We really are. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much our oral health affects our whole body.
Yeah, speaking of that, this article talks about a connection between oral health and some other diseases. We already mentioned heart disease, but there are a couple others that I was surprised by.
It's really becoming clear that your mouth isn't separate from the rest of your body, For example, there's some evidence that gum disease and diabetes might be linked.
Really? I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, some studies have shown that people who have gum disease have a harder time controlling their blood sugar, and people who have diabetes are more likely to get gum disease. It kind of goes both ways.
So taking care of your mouth could actually help people with diabetes.
It's possible. We need more research to be sure. But it does show how important it is to look at health from a whole body perspective.
This is really making me think differently about how I take care of my teeth. It's not just about not getting cavities or having white teeth. It's about my whole health.
I agree. It's about making healthy choices every day that are good for your mouth and good for your whole body.
I feel like we've been on this amazing journey today, learning all about plaque and tartar, how important the oral microbiome is, and how our oral health is connected to our overall well-being.
It's been a real deep dive in every sense of the word. We've gone way beyond just the basics and learned so much that can help us all take control of our oral health.
And I think the biggest takeaway here is that oral health isn't just about brushing and flossing. It's about understanding this whole complex world that exists inside our mouths and making choices that keep it healthy and balanced.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about being proactive and taking a holistic approach to oral health, one that considers not just our teeth and gums, but our whole body's well-being.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought. Think about your own oral hygiene routine. Are there any small changes you could make to make it even better? Maybe try using a tongue scraper, look into oral probiotics, or just try to floss more often.
And remember, every step you take towards a healthier mouth is a step towards a healthier you. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those pearly whites shining bright.
That's a great way to end it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of plaque and tartar. We hope you found it helpful and informative. Until next time, happy brushing.